third one, right?
This is getting to know yourself. We switched.
No, but that one's getting to know yourself.
We switched.
Yeah, I learned that one.
That's why he's so calm and never nervous.
Yeah, I know. No, that's
only
like
positivity.
Teach people about it, but I can't necessarily do it myself.
We're gonna get there.
It's like
Okay.
therapist.
We're gonna get there. All right, 1 second. Let's get this thing. All right. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So we started a Sicha 2 weeks ago. We didn't do last week. Ayin Zayin. So you have to chazer over. Ayin Zayin. Chazer over a little bit. Try our best. So I'll read some of it inside. Can't go through the whole thing again, but we'll touch on points. Ayin Zayin. Sicha Ayin Zayin. So it says Rabbi Nachman, Kol Olam Malay Machlokas. The whole world is filled with machlokas. Hein Beinu Mas Olam. The whole world, nations, every year, cities are fighting with each other. B'chol bias, ubayis, even in the houses. Whether it's neighbors fighting, people with their wives, or with their children, or the hired help and the children. There's always fights going on. And Rabbi Nachman was giving Musar. He says people are wasting their time. They're not paying attention to the goal of life, and that they're what? Every single day a person dies. You have this day, you have this 24 hours, never to come back again, and you're throwing it away with machlokas that gets you absolutely nowhere most of the time. Every day that passes, you can't give it life again, and every day you're getting closer to Misa. So there's a Musar. What are you wasting your time with? Machlokas. What are you gaining from it? All your machlokas. Even we said, even if you think that it's appropriate, still, you have to. Even if you think you're right, you have to weigh what you're going to gain from it and how much you're going to lose. How much money you're going to lose. How much time. How much sleep. How much focus. How much energy. For what? To be right. You have to weigh the long term, not just the quick short term. If a person's just angry, he can't think long term. A person with das, a person who could be calm, he could see the longer story. And sometimes it's kedai, but most times it's really, really not kedai. And especially the little squabbles, or whatever word it is that we have in our homes, it's usually never kedai. Never kedai. Vedasha kol echad. And he says this is really all one. All machlokas is one. Whether it's nations, he says, right, fighting about oil, land, religion, or you and your kids. It's all one type of machlokas. Shamachlokas shebeprati is beini shubeso b'kiyotze. The little fights you call the fights of the single people, you, a wife, a husband, and a wife. Who gamkein mamash machlokas shebein hamalachim v'amos. It's the same exact machlokas as kings and nations. Because each person in the house is considered an umma miyuchedes, his own nation. Each person is likened to an entire world. So when you're fighting, it's two worlds fighting, just like when it's two nations fighting. There's no difference. They're fighting. Just like the world wars. So two kids in the house fighting. It's like a world war because they're both nations. And we explained over there how do you see what is the common factor between people fighting in the homes, let's say singular people, and nations fighting, right? Nations fighting are fighting over big things, right? Little people are fighting over, house responsibilities and chores and smaller things. Nations are fighting over big stuff. So what do you mean? It's totally different than machlokas. What's Rabbi Nachman saying? It's the same. So if you remember, 2 weeks ago we explained that all machlokas really boils down to an issue of midos. Fighting over oils, fighting over powers, fighting over egos, fighting over kavod, fighting over kina, taiva. So the same fight that they have over the world wars over ego, it's the same thing in your house over ego. Yeah, one thing's about land and one thing's about, a side of the bedroom or something. But at the source, at the root of it all, it's the same thing. It's the same fight. Right? That's what we were explaining in depth. We'll come back into it soon. And it's possible that a person can recognize, even within himself, the different nation, quote unquote, the different nation he comes from. Meaning, kiyadu midos almost, because we know that each nation has its own midah. That they're that they're very good in. Shazakasa, and this nation is a bunch of angry people. Verotzeach, and these are murderers, Each person is going to have their quote unquote, their special midas that they have. Some children are more angry, some are more stubborn, some of them are just out to lunch, and this could rub people the wrong way. Each person has their own midah, like a nation has their own midah, and at the root of that, that's what's going to get into people into fights. People can't handle that everybody's not the same. And Rabbi Nachman says, and even if you're a person who likes peace, you don't want to fight. You'd rather sit in quiet. You're going to get pulled into a machlokas, into a war. Just like you see by the world, the nations of the world fighting. You see one nation wants to sit in peace. They don't want to fight. You have a nation that wants peace so much, they're willing to give in to the other nations, to pay tribute, to be subservient to other nations, because they don't want to fight. But even though they're trying their best not to fight, they get chapped into the machlokas. How? Because one side says Shia mitzido, because one nation says that these neutral guys are with us, and the other one says no, they're with us. So even though they're trying to appease, they can't appease both, then they're going to get into trouble by the other side. So either way, they're going to get pulled into machlokas. They're going to be in a war. What are you going to do? So it's just inevitable. It's going to be machlokas. It's going to be wars. So too with fights in the house. You try to give in, you try to give in, try to give in. Sometimes you still get pulled into a war. Right? You try to give. You can't give in to your kids everything, and sometimes they're just so cranky, or sometimes the spouse, the husband, the wife, this or that. You try your best. It's impossible. There's always going to be something. Doesn't mean every day. There's always going to be something, so prepare yourself. Because each person is a small world, and the entire world is within him. And this is all from the last 2 weeks, so we're just moving fast. All the more so, a person in his household, the people in his house, it's not just one nation. Now you have multiple nations. You have the whole UN in your house. They never get along. Then the Chamas Garns up is there, and they fight with each other, and they incite each other, call each other names. The Alkane, but they all agree on one thing, right? Destroyer, right?
Yeah.
The Alkane, Lepa'amim Kisha Yoshev Levado Biyar, and we saw this last week. So what does the guy say? Fine, I'm out of here. I'm going to stay away from all the machlokas. I'm going to go to the forest. Because there's nobody there. No one can fight with me there. The Alkane Lepa'amim Kisha Yoshev Levado, he sits by himself, Biyar in the forest. Yochel Yoshiya Nasi Meshuggah, he can go Meshuggah there. He can go crazy. How? Why? How? Because he's by himself. So Rabbi Nachman is saying a deeper chiddush. Not only are people in the homes different umos, different nations, and they fight against each other. So this guy's like, okay, I'll just take my nation and I'll just go to the forest. So I'll just be myself. So Rabbi Nachman says, no. Because within you, you have all the nations, even within you. Because you're a microcosm of the microcosm. So you have all the nations within you. The Nechlam Bo Levad Kol Omos, right? They're all within you. You're so far away. And they're fighting within each other. You're going to take this from me in a minute. They're all fighting within each other. So now they have all these different voices in their head. Sometimes it's alone, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's frustrated, sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's humble. He's got everything inside of him. And each time what? Vahui says they're all fighting with each other, right? Obviously, ego and humility are going to fight with each other. Anger and menuchas and nefesh, they're going to fight with each other. So you could leave the people, but you're still with yourself. And each time you have to put on a different hat, depending on who's winning. Because since you identify with the strongest meter that's in you right now, if you're angry, I am angry. If I'm calm, I am calm. If I'm happy, I am happy. It's always I. How many eyes could you be? A person could go crazy. He has to be everything. So he says, so because of that, right, you can go Meshuggah. Person could go push it crazy from all the different deis that he has inside of him. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. If we would know what's going on in our minds during the day, I'm a good worker, I'm a bad worker. I'm a good father, I'm a bad father. I'm a good spouse, I'm a bad spouse. I'm a good this, I'm a bad. Today's davening is good. Today I'm bad. Today I'm not here. Today I'm there. Today I'm everywhere. There's never who's ever quiet. When does a person ever have some inner quiet? Rarely, unless he works on. Otherwise, chat all day long. Sometimes louder, sometimes not as loud, but it's going on. It's there. Shabbai de Hasgaris Umosh and Cholam Bavado. So he has all these different deists because of the different nations that he has inside of him. Aval Keshubi Yishu ben Anashim. So he says, okay, fine. So if I'm going to go crazy with myself here, I'll go back to the people. So Aval Keshubi Yishu ben Anashim. But when he goes to sit with the people, Yesh Makom L'Macham L'Spasha B'Chalechem Me'abayis. He's going to get back into fights with all the other people. He has a lose-lose. So Rabbi Nachman, it's very happy Sicha here. It's a lose-lose. You're in the house, you're going to fight. You go to work, you're going to fight. You go to shul, you end up fighting. You go home, you go to the forest, you're going to fight with yourself. Can't win. Hamachlokas shebebeis hatzadik, and he finishes off. He says, even in the house of a tzaddik, where you think there's no fights, there's fights there too. Hamachlokas shebebeis hatzadik, who gam ken bechinas mechamas and umos. It's also world wars going on, different nations fighting. Gam nechlon sham bechinas mechamas shvatim, shem mechamas zel zeh. Ephraim al Yehuda Kiyotz, it's like different shvatim fighting against each other. Whole big nations, big shvatim. At the end of the Sichos he says, "Ukashiyava Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, Meir B'Yameinu, Oz Yizbatel Kol Minei Machlokas, all the machlokas are finally going to go away. Yesh Shalom Gadol Ba'olam K'mo Shekasav Lo Yareu Lo Yashrisu." And then there's going to be Shalom, peace, a great peace is going to come into the world. Lo Yareu, there's not going to be any Ra. Lo Yashrisu, there won't be any more destruction, corruption.
It's a sad one.
So,
hope until Mashiach.
So it sounds like it's very sad. There's just going to be perpetual battles until Mashiach. It's a kingdom here in Right. It's good for the lawyers. It's good for the lawyers out there. Okay. So we have all these different days inside. You go to the forest, you're stuck with yourself. It's possible that person could go crazy from it. Not everybody, but you're not. It doesn't mean you're not put. You start questioning yourself. You start doubting yourself. You start asking yourself back and forth. Happy said, if you go back into the yishuv, as you go back into the yishuv, you go back with people. What happens with all those days they have inside of yourself? You start blaming everybody else. You got me sad. You got me frustrated. You got me angry, right? That's what happens. Because if you're with other people, so you take it out on other people. And they take it out on you, and then again, world war. So the point that I really wanted to get to tonight is really the last line. Because we discussed a lot last week, 2 weeks ago, about the different machlokas, which it really comes from midos ros. And we said that, I'll say it now, I was going to say it soon, but what happens when a person is involved with the midos ros, the gaiva, the taiva, the kinna, the cover, all that stuff, which ultimately makes machlokas? How does that happen? Because a person's vision, his perspective, his ability to think clearly is totally skewered and biased to your emotions at the time. Right? Person's happy. He's actually happy. He'll see happy things outside. Right? His vision, what he sees outside, will be a raya, a proof to how he's feeling. Right? He sees he's happy, he's feeling good about what he sees outside. It's a sunny day. What a gewaldic sunny day. Amazing. Then you have another guy who's upset. For whatever reason, he's frustrated, he's upset, he's down, he's angry, he's negative. Again, however he got there, we're not getting there now. And he sees outside and he's like, yesterday wasn't this nice. Tomorrow's not going to be this nice. Like it's a little too hot, a little too cold. Or, right, the glass is half empty. Person who's feeling good is going to see the glass half full, more often than not. And the person who's not feeling good, he's going to see the glass as half empty. Because the way that we see, if we're not worked through, we're not worked on ourselves yet, it's going to be primarily through the way we feel. Because we hold feelings to be the emes lamita. We've discussed this in the past. I am my feelings. My feelings are right. That's it. Once in a while, fine. Maybe once in a while I get angry and I shouldn't. But most of the times I get angry, it's right. They deserve it. That's great. Whether you're right or not, which usually you're not, of course, you're not going to see straight. Because you're going to see from that place. And very often you're not right. And what happens when you're not right? It's called sheker. Sheker is machlokas. Because when I'm now, why does machlokas happen? And two types of machlokas. You mentioned this 2 weeks ago. I'm just chazering over. Two types of machlokas. There's a machlokas l'shem shemayim, says the Pirkei Avos, and a machlokas shelo l'shem shemayim. If it's l'shem shemayim, hilon l'shamai, sofa l'skayim. The people will not, right? The Bar Tumer said the people, will live. They won't die from this machlokas. It's l'shem shemayim. They're fighting over what's the Ratzon Hashem. They're trying their best. Yeah, it might be chazak. They're not going to back down. But since it's for a bigger purpose, it's for Ratzon Hashem to understand what does He want. So therefore, Soflas Kaim, they won't get worn out from it. They're trying to do their best. But if it's a machlokas shelo l'shem shemayim korach, where what he was doing, his gaiva, his kina, skewered his vision, and he started going after Moshe Rabbeinu, everything became sheker. It became a big machlokas, shelo l'shem shemayim, and that's a misa. He was killing his days. Eina Soflas Kaim. He's not going to be Mekayim. And he died. And he fell into the earth. Right? Because the machlokas comes usually from Midas Rose. Because even if you have a difference of opinion, we usually say if two people are calmly, working something out, you don't call it a machlokas. You call it working it out. Now, there is a machlokas l'shem shemayim. It's a high level. But let's say it's two people, it's not talking about Torah, it's in the business world. Right? You either fight about it or you work it out. Right? It's a big difference. It's a big difference. Usually, what's the difference between working out and fighting? It's usually midos. He raises his voice because he's angry, then he raises his voice because he's angry because he's jealous of him, he's angry at him, he blames him. So that which could have been worked out, you can't. You have to fight about it because there's emotions involved. What do emotions have to do with money? Did you give the money? Did you not give the money? Cold. Like what's the thing with emotions getting involved? Because we're human beings. But if we could live life where the situations where we have to deal with other people would be in a certain way cold, not talking about loving relationships, we're talking about when there's differences of opinion. If we could just keep it cold, let's stick to the facts, then it would be much easier. But we can't. Because we see things different ways because we're emotional. And that's where a sheker could come in. Machlokas erupts, gets out of hand, a little thing becomes a big thing, and then people are just dying. Not actually dying, but they're killing their days, they're killing their time. Happens all the time. So comes Mashiach. Kshiava Mashiach meher b'meinu. Oz yizbatel kol mini machlokas. All machlokas is going to go away. So as we said, it's a little depressing that we have to wait the Mashiach for that. And we hope it comes every day, but it hasn't come yet. So how do we understand this? Is this supposed to be, again, depressing, or is there supposed to be a chizuk here? So to get to there, first we have to understand what's going to happen in Bizman Mashiach. Right? What is it that Rabbi Nachman is saying? Yizbatel kol machlokas. It's all going to be nullified. So for that, I don't have it inside, but the Rambam says, I'm going to read it to you in English, and later I'm going to read it to you in Hebrew when I need to be medayik at something. The Rambam says, towards the end of his magnum opus, the Yad Chazaka, in a sefer called Shoftim, it's in Melachim and Milchamos, kings and wars. Different halachas about kings and different things. And mamash at the end, I'm just reading to you in English, the Rambam says, do not presume that in the times of Mashiach, any facet of the world's nature will change, or there will be innovations in the work of creation. Rather, the world will continue according to its pattern, according to its tava. The Rambam holds. Although Yeshaya states, the ger V'gar ze'ev im keves, v'nomer im gedi yirbatz. The wolf, the ze'ev, will live with the lamb. Usually the wolf eats the lamb. But at the times of Mashiach, the wolf will be able to live peacefully with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat and not eat it. This is what the Rambam says. It's from Pasuk Nishai. These words are a metaphor and a parable. The interpretation of the Nevuah is as follows. Bnei Yisrael will dwell securely together with the wicked Gentiles who are likened to a wolf and a leopard. During these days, the wolf wants to eat us. We're the lamb, we're the young goat, Chad Gadya, right? The nations want to destroy us. There's a chashash to be in there was a Havamim in the Gemara, I think, at some point, even to be yichud with a man who's a non-Jew because he might kill you. Not because of those things, because he might kill you. We don't pass it like that. But in times of Mashiach, what?
This is a barber, right?
Yeah. Common. So that Rambam holds that Bizman Mashiach come out, everything's going to stay the same except for this union of shalom, of peace. Okay? Now that's Mashiach. Okay? The problem is that when we usually learn this Rambam, we learn about Mashiach, so it means world peace, like the Rambam says. World peace. The Umos are not going to fight with us. Everything's going to be peaceful. Shalom Yisrael. The problem is that this Sicha, although it definitely mentioned Umos, the tachlis of the Sicha was not to speak about the nations fighting, the nations of the world fighting. It's talking about us. That I am a nation. Within me, I have many nations. Within my household, we have many nations that we're fighting within each other. Mashiach is discussing the actual world nations. But this Sicha is not talking about that. This Sicha is talking about me. I'm just called a nation. So why is Rabbi Nachman bringing up this inyan of Mashiach, which has to do with world wars, and is bringing it to this Sicha that has to do with wars of the pratim, of the people, singular people? And how does that help us now? What does it do for us? What's Mashiach going to do for our fights with our spouses?
Like Rebecca.
So let's get to it. So, again, the way we explained the connection that Rabbi Nachman said that each of us is like an umo, and within us we have many umos, is that it's an inyan of midas. Even on the outside, we might be fighting about this, we might be fighting about that object, or this shore, or this philosophy in the home. It all boils down, the machlokas boils down to some bad midah. Otherwise, we could work it out. But why can't we work it out? Why is there machlokas? Kena, taiva, kavod, no savlanas, whatever it might be, kapdanas, all the different midas rows. So, with that in mind, let's go back to hold that place. All of the different umos within us is talking about midas. The Rambam, I want to ask a question on the Rambam. The Rambam starts off by saying that nothing spectacular is going to happen by Mashiach. Everything's going to stay the same. The world's nature is going to be the same. Except for one thing. What's the one thing? The Zev can live with the Kevis. The wolf can live with the lamb. How'd that happen? How'd that change? He just said nothing's going to change except we're going to live with the one who wanted to kill us yesterday, and now he's not going to kill us today. It sounds like something changed. It didn't change or it did change? How do we understand the Rambam? So, 3 psukim later in Yeshaya, after it goes through a few more, the wolf's going to live with the lamb, and these different animals can live together, different nations can live together, the pasuk says, the pasuk that Rabbi Nachman quoted. Rabbi Nachman quoted, get back to this place over here, I'm all over the place. Lo yarov lo yashchisu. There's going to be no more ra, there's going to be no more hashchasa, corruption. Pasuk says, this is 3 psukim away from the pasuk that the Rambam brought about the wolf living with the lamb. Lo yarev lo yashchisu. What's that referring to? The end of the pasuk says, Bechol har kachi. There's going to be no more fighting on my holy mountain, which is referring to all of Eretz Yisrael. Why? How? Kimola haaretz deya es Hashem. Because the whole world is going to be filled with knowledge of Hashem. Kamayim liyam mechasim. It's going to be so much like the amount of das is going to be in the world is not the water, the oceans cover over the entire world. Okay? So, why is there going to be no fighting? Because they're going to be das Hashem. Nothing's really going to change. All nature is going to stay the same. When Mashiach comes in, he's going to bring this revelation of das Hashem. Once das Hashem comes in, everything in the inside changes. The outside teva stays the same. But the knowledge of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we're not experiencing it yet. Everything's going to become tame. And if you look at the Rambam carefully, I'll read you the words, he really does say this. So the Rambam in the Hebrew, don't think that times of Mashiach, things are going to become nullified, the nature. There's going to come some kind of chiddush in my separations. Not happening. Rather, the world's going to go in the way the world is going. And he brings the pasuk in Yeshaya that the wolf and the lamb are going to live together. He says, Inyan hadavar. The Inyan hadavar is, okay, one second, not this part. He brings fine, Shnamar. I'm all over here, okay. He says, V'yichazru kulam ladas ha'emes. Because when Mashiach comes in, they're all going to return to das ha'emes. Now here he spells das, dalid, sof, not with an ayin. So dalid, sof means religion, but I don't think it means they're all going to become, he means here das. They're all going to come to one das. When das Hashem comes in, then everybody's going to drop their prati das. I'm like this, you're like this, I have this, me, that, them. And it's going to become nullified to the one overarching das Hashem. That's called the das emes. Right? This is the emes. Before, the different deos that a person had inside of his system could be sheker. Sheker skewers the vision. You can't see straight. Machlokas. But if there be an overarching das that can unify all the other deos that you have inside of yourself, or all the other deos that you have inside that family, right? The Rambam is saying Mashiach comes. Mashiach's going to bring in one new revelation of das, of knowledge, of understanding. And with that, everybody's going to nullify their own personal biases, perspectives, agendas, because there's the clarity that's going to come. Again, it's hard to experience it. We can only speak about it intellectually. So Mashiach's not going to change anything. Not changing anything. All Teva is going to stay the same. He's just going to reveal a das that it's almost like a new technology. It's not changing Teva. But this new das, new understanding is going to change. It's going to, in a certain way, change everything. It's going to change the inner midos. The wolf used to want to eat the lamb. And now, he doesn't need to. He can find his food some other place. The teva of the wolf is not going to change necessarily. But the das is going to be different within each person, even the guy. They're going to see things differently. They're going to become elevated. So we have within us a system of emotions. We can't get into it now, but there's two major ways that we can start detailing the emotions. Now, in the non-Torah world, there are people who are discussing these things all the time. The emotional world, there's different things. But in the Torah world, we have two major ways to break down our midos, our emotions. Number one is the concept of Eish, Mayim, Ruach, Afer, that we're made up of a composition of a balance of fire, water, wind, and earth. Eish, Mayim, Ruach, and Afer. Each one of those four have midos that are connected to it. Eish could be anger. Eish could be excitement. Mayim could be taivas, flowing. Afer, dirt, could be laziness. It could be atzvus, sadness, depression. You just want to fall into the dirt. Ruach could be movement. There's many, many midos that come out from each one of those, and we're a mixture of all of them. And the other system is the 10 spheres. The 10 spheres, each one has different midos, combinations. When there's an imbalance in the system, so bad midos are going to come out. That's all it is. If you have too much Aish over your water to cool it down, you're getting angry. Right? You need the cooling waters to keep it at bay. But if you're an imbalanced person, now the anger is going to come out. Or whatever midah we're discussing. When midah's rows come out, you can't see straight. Your vision's skewed. You're living a life of sheker. You get into machlokas. I didn't see it that way. I see it this way. And that guy says, I see it my way. I don't see it your way. And they can't just work it out. Obviously not, because sometimes we're just opposites. We can't do that. Right? They have nothing. Because I have my saying, you have your saying. I believe my saying is 100% right. I believe yours is 100% wrong. The other guy says, I believe my saying is 100% right, and your 100% wrong. And there's no way you can pick the two, and you have to pick one. You can't have a pshat sometimes. So he's like, I'm not going to be involved to myself. Why am I involved to myself? I'm 100% right. And he's saying, I'm not going to be involved to myself because I'm 100% right. There's no move sometimes. It's checkmate. Unless you bring something higher than the two of them. If you bring a new das in that they didn't know before, that can maybe change their vision of what they hold of right now. Right? This is what Mashiach's going to do. Because when Mashiach's going to come, he's going to bring das. Now das, also, again, it's a bigger sugya, but das is a tool that has two opposite usages. That's what makes it so amazing. Das is the ability to make separations. Das is an meaning of havdalah, to be mavdil bein kodesh l'chol, to separate between holy, unholy, good and bad. That's why we say havdalah and atachonin l'adam das. Hashem endowed man with das, and das can separate good and bad, tov and ra, whatever it is, choshech and or. But das also has the complete opposite usage, which is what? Adam yodas chava. Adam intimately knew chava. There was able to be a hiskashos, a connection. So you have two opposing forces. Das separates, yet it also combines. It doesn't make sense. What's das? Das is when you know something so well, and it can be bigger things, smaller things, we can't get into. So then you know what it is and what it's not. You know how to connect it. You know it so well, you know everything about it. You know how to use it. When a person becomes whatever line of work he's in. The beginning of his job, whatever he's a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, a businessman, whatever. So he doesn't have das of the Indian yet. But over time he becomes like an expert in it. He knows it so well. He knows what's real, what's fake. He knows what to connect to, which deals to take, which deals not to take. When you're young, you're learning. You try, trial and error. At a certain point, you become an expert in the Indian. Right? Das is almost in a certain way becoming like an expert in the Indian. When you work on the Indian of Das, it changes everything. So inside me, I have this imbalance. I have tons of different deos, like the Rambam said, like the Rabbi Nachman said. Right? The guy goes to the forest. He's going to go crazy. The guy's going to go crazy. Rabbi Nachman's the guy in the forest. Why? Machmas hishapchus hadeos shabo. Because inside of him, he has all these different deos fighting around. Who am I? What am I? What am I right now? What am I tomorrow? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I humble? Am I this? Am I that? Did they like me? Did they not like me? So there's so many deos going on here. Everybody has an opinion, right? 10 Jews in a room. How many opinions do you have? 10. At least that's what they say. At least. Yeah, we're 11. Until the Rebbe comes in and says, it's like this. And they're like, okay, Rebbe, whatever you say. Right? But if you have no Rebbe, if you have no higher das, then 10 people are fighting. But once you have that higher level das, then everybody says, oh, we're nullified to that. So when a person works on the Indian of das, even das atzmacha, knowing himself, he can then, you have to actually do this, but he can take all the different deos that he has, and they could come underneath one heading called Das Atzmacha. I know myself. So yes, Today it was a good day. Yesterday was not, but it's all under one heading. I'm not 15 different people. I'm one person. And all those emotions are mine, and they're all okay. I'm not crazy. I'm normal. I want to work on some, but it's all me. So you can be calm. You don't have to go crazy. That's called a Mashiach. That's a geula, right? Not to go crazy from yourself. So what we're learning here is that Mashiach doesn't need to be b'mher b'yameinu. We want it now, but when it's going to be. It can be right now. Because again, what's the need of Mashiach? Then the Mashiach is bringing a new das. The das that overrides all the little deas. That's where all the fights are coming from. He's a dea, he's a dea, he's a dea, he's a dea. Nobody wants to nullify themselves. I know, he knows, she knows, they know, we know. But when you have a das that's higher that comes in, everybody nullifies itself. So within yourself, you have different opinions, different emotions. But if you understand that you're one soul with one body, and yes, there are different tekufas, and you go through different things, it's okay. It's all one. Al tidak. When you're in a house with different people, so now there's two ways to go. First off, you know yourself. You have the ability to use the tool. Once you have das, remember, you can separate and you can connect. Once you have das, you're able to use your midos. Again, this doesn't happen in the snap of the fingers. So if there's about to be a fight in the house, you can use your das to separate. You can use your das to use humility now. Make the right choice in the situation. Doesn't mean life's going to be peaches. There's always going to be people trying to bring you into machlokas. But you have the ability to prevent it a little bit, or a lot of it. The second way is that what the Ram said, what's the true Mashiach? Das Hashem. Das Hashem is a madrega of Amunah. There's an overrun. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. There's going to be a world war going on. But there's a Boreal, there's a creator of the world who's mashgiach of every part, and he's running mamish the world. And if you're mavatal your das to his das, then it's all one. It looks like there's a million fights going on. It looks like there's a million deus going on, but it's not really true. It's really one das. It's the Kadosh Baruch Hu's das. Just like I have a million different opinions in myself, but once I learn myself and I'm okay with that, it's okay. So that doesn't mean that the anger is not there anymore. It might still be there. Frustration might still be there. Stress might still be there. Happiness might still be there. They're all still there, but it's okay. Because it's one system. And we'll work on it. So too, when you understand the Das Hashem, when you see a million different things going on, you don't get lost in the multiplicity of things. Rather, you can understand that there really is one Das. There's really one Das Hashem. He just happens to be doing all these things in different ways. But it's okay, because it's really one Das. That's what's going on. That breaks all machlokas, because that's Mashiach. So it's not. So what Rabbi Nachman's saying is that everything he spoke about in the Torah, in the Sicha, can be fixed up when Mashiach comes. But we have the ability to bring Mashiach at any time. When we bring in Das Atzmacha, knowing yourself, or Das Hashem, in a real way, you could bring the Mashiach to yourself, and you can get out of all problems. Whether internally you're having problems, whether it's a problem with a spouse, a problem with a kid. Again, not that the problems go away, not that your kid's going to become a good kid because you're working on yourself, but you'll be a good person in the way you react and you deal with that person. You won't need to get into machlokas with them because you see the higher madreg. And even if someone tries to pull you into the machlokas, like Rabbi Nachman said, if you're living with Mashiach, they can't pull you into the machlokas. There's Das Hashem. Something bigger than me. If you're able to nullify your Das, move out to your Das of Das Hashem, then you're above it. And no one could really pull you in. Once in a while, we're humans. We're going to fall. No one's perfect. But it's much, much less off. So when a person's in a state of this Mashiach, let's bring it to Purim, Mamish, almost that Zman. Got to get into the feelings. I feel like there's so much going on. It's hard to get into Purim. It's Erev Shabbos. People are already like, I don't know, it's going to be Purim this year. Let's, We'll get to Shabbos. We'll do Purim next year. What?
More Purim.
More Purim.
Once the Shabbos will do Purim.
I know, and I heard still Purim Shulish. It's like, yeah, Shushim. People, So when a person's in the state of Mashiach, it's a redemption of the self. It's a redemption with himself. It's a redemption with his relationships. Because it's calm, peace, shalom. There's no lacking. In that place, a person can be b'simcha. Right? That is fertile ground for simcha. Why can't I be b'simcha? Because I'm fighting with myself, I'm fighting with him, I can't be b'simcha. So many deis going on. But when we unify the deis, we bring the Mashiach to ourselves. That's simcha. So if you do the gematria of Mashiach, it's what? 3, 5, 8. Same gematria as hasimcha. The simcha. Not little clinic simcha. The ultimate simcha, hasimcha is 358. Same gematria as Mashiach. So that's what happens. When a person brings Mashiach into himself, or Mitzvah B'meir B'meinu, the real ultimate Mashiach, the Gula, it's going to be Gevaldik dancing. It's going to be a big simcha. Right? So, the question you should ask me though is what? I'll get you up to this point, then you'll ask me the question, and then we'll give an answer. Okay? Up until right this point, we're saying Mashiach is dependent on bringing new das in. When you bring the new das in, he nullifies all the little deus, all the fighting, unifies it, shlemus, simcha, gewalt. So what's the kasha about Purim? Purim is ad lo yoda. Whole purpose on Purim is no, no das. Not unifying the das.
That's because you're giving into Hashem's das.
So the whole year, we have to try to work on das. Das Atzmacha, Das Hashem. You have to try to, with your Ishtadlis, you have to really learn the sugyas. You have to try to, das comes when you learn sugyas, when you learn Be'in, not Bekiyas. Bekiyas is very good, and you do need that as well, but you need to learn things Be'in. You need to think deeply, to become intimately connected. Chabad, Chacham Bina, Das. Takes time. So the whole year, we're trying to unify the self through das. But comes once a year, Purim, which is a light that's well above our das, because it's the trickiest thing. Everything was natural in Purim, right? There was no miracles, yet it was so not natural. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu was there the whole time. So you thought you saw what was going on. With your das, Esther says, Mordechai, just, I don't have to run into the king right now. It's going to be okay. He's going to call me in. I'll speak to him. Don't worry, we don't have to rush. And Mordechai says, no, Adelo Yada. It's not about das right now. Because Revach Vatzala is going to be, for sure, is going to be a redemption. Do I know how? I have no idea. I know there will be. It doesn't make sense, Esther says. Mordechai says, I don't care. We're not dealing with making sense right now. Because that's the whole problem that people got into in the first place. Oh, Achashverosh having a party, we should go, we should connect to the nations. That makes sense, they'll like us. Maybe they'll let us build the base of Mikdash. Who knows? Mordechai said, you crazy people. That's not how it works, man. You're going to bow to them? No, you bow to Kadosh Baruch Hu, even when it doesn't make sense. Haman, the entire world is bowing down to Haman. Mordechai says, no. What do you... Mordechai, just bow down to the guy. We all know you don't care. We all know you're not bowing down to him. Just do the thing with the head. It says, meaning he didn't lie down, like everybody else, but he wouldn't even nod his head. Nothing. Mordechai, you can't even bow your head to the guy? No. Doesn't make any sense, Mordechai. I know. This is Purim. It's not going to make sense. It's adelo yada. It's lamayla mitamadas. It's to become nullified in the Kadosh Baruch Hu's das. To the point of adelo yada bein our Haman and Baruch Mordechai. What does that even mean? It's a crazy thing. What do you mean? We're supposed to come to the place where Haman's good and Mordechai's bad? That we don't know the difference between the two? Doesn't make any sense. The answer is, that's right. Because at your highest understanding, it's still nothing. As much as you think you know, there's one little drop above you that you have no idea. Which means you have no idea. Tachas hayediyah shelo neda, which was like the first sicha in the entire, or the second or third the entire Sichos Haran. Tachas idea shaloneda. The purpose of all yediyah is this, the spitz yediyah of all. The spitz knowledge is to know you don't know, but live that way. So we can't live that way the whole year. It's very hard. So on Purim is the time of the year where we go ad lo yada. We drink, just no das, because it's all okay. Because anyway I look, if it's Ar Haman, it's Bar Mordechai, it's this day, it's that day, it's all one big day. It's all das Hashem. It looks crazy. Looks like Achashverosh is winning. Looks like Haman's winning. It looks like the Jews are going to die. Ad lo yada. Give it up. One time a year. The whole year we have to work on das. We have to work on because we don't want to get into machlokas. But once a year, just let it all go. But the Indian really is Gansiar Purim. Because what are we talking about over here? We're talking about a high level of Amunah. A true level of Amunah. That's really what Ad lo yada is. Ad lo yada is, I don't know, but I believe. I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't understand this. It looks bad. It's illogical. But I believe. You go up. But I believe. Ani mamin. How could you believe? It makes no sense on paper. You're right. Amunah doesn't make sense. That's ad lo yada. So really you can live that way the whole year. Purim is just the headquarters of it. And Purim we drink to get to that place. Not that you should be drinking. You could drink, do whatever you want. But that's ad lo yada. To get to the place of lo yediyah. Because it's not my idea, it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu's yediyah. Once a Kadosh Baruch Hu's yediyah, all is good. There's no machlokas, everything is peaceful. It's Mashiach in our time, in our day. Ich besuche, a freilichen Purim.